Oh my goodness. I have been waiting for this conversation for what, a week, 7 to 10 days or so.
Yep.
I was so excited when I got to book Miranda May for this podcast. And Miranda, I just want to say welcome to the Sweet Empowerment Podcast.
Oh my, the honor and privilege is all mine. I have been following you on Wisdom for some time now. I have always respected you in the work you do and your intuitive side and the connection side. And so when you asked me to be on your show, I'm like, okay, someone sprinkled some magic dust on me. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
So the affection is mutual. Yes.
Oh.
So just so everybody knows, I meet a lot of amazing people on the Wisdom app. This is a social audio app. And I mention this because people might be like, what's wisdom? What's wisdom? So I'm just going to throw that in there real quick. And Miranda was one of those people that when I heard like from 30 seconds into listening to her talk, I'm like, slam dunk follow. Like I didn't even hesitate because not only is she articulate and well-spoken, she speaks my spiritual language as well. And I can feel her energy. I can feel her energy of love that emanates out of her. And the Wisdom app has been an incredible journey for me because I have found these people that like rock my world, that are so in alignment with where I'm at right now. And I call them my mighty companions. So thank you again, Miranda. And let's get started. Are you ready for your first question?
Oh, I am ready. I'm sure we're going to unpack a lot today. I have a feeling.
So my first question is, when I give podcasts or interviews on my podcast, I often ask people to just give me a little bit of their backstory about, for you, it'd be how you became a funeral director and also medium, because I'm sure a lot of people like funeral director, this is about death. This is about funerals. This is about one of the hardest things that people do. And there's this kind of like interest peak, like how do people get into that? So if you want to just share with us how, this went down briefly, that would be awesome.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good question because you kind of want to know where did it start? It really began for me in 2009 when I was 27 years old. I experienced my first significant loss in my life, and that was my husband. He unexpectedly passed in a motorcycle accident. And because of that, when you hear that your life experiences will often lead you on your path, I had no idea, no understanding of how much that loss was going to change my life um, in so many directions, in so many levels. Like it has shaped me. It really has. Um, the first grief book that I was ever given was by my mom, and it was by a medium, James Van Praagh. And he's written a few books, but this particular one that was given to me was called Ghost Among Us. And this is 3 or 4 days after my husband's funeral. So it is fresh. And I often tell people this in the grief healing journey who are just beginning, that grief will open us up. It will crack us open. It will peel all of our layers back. It's a level of vulnerability that is so uncomfortable. You want to just go run and escape and hide under the covers. But what happens is, what I think a lot of people don't understand, is that is the opportunity to connect. Because when your heart space is open, when your crown chakra is open, that is the opportunity for us to really lean into it, as uncomfortable as it might feel. Now, don't get me wrong. I did not do this the entire time. I made many, many, many mistakes along my grief healing journey, and we may get into that. But when I read this book, Ghost Among Us by James Van Praagh, he basically said, they're all there. They're all there. And he gave so many stories of just validating that our loved ones are with us, our loved ones are protecting us and guiding us, and whatever that might be, whatever we need. And I was sold. I'm going to say it, I was dying for this connection with Lance. I needed to hear from him. I needed to feel him. And what did I have to lose? I had nothing to lose at this point because I've already lost everything. So if James says, go in, go connect with them, everyone can do it, I'm like, all right, let's go do this. And I did it. And let me tell you something. It was a short amount of time for him to come back, for my husband to come back and say, I'm here. Like random smells of coffee in the middle of the night. Like there's a pot of coffee brewing. I could smell his cologne. I could hear his flip-flops. This one particular sign is coming up for me right now, so I think I'm going to share it.
Please.
It's probably my most significant sign from him. That's one of those unexplainable situations where you're like, how did that happen? When he was on his motorcycle, he had his hat on, his beautiful red handkerchief, his bandana. That is a big sign for me too. He had a watch on, and oddly enough, none of this stuff was destroyed. Like, I still have it all. And when I looked at his watch, after the accident, it was a digital watch. This was in 2009, all right? And it was broken. No time, no nothing. And I'm thinking, all right, and I kept it. And then it was probably about maybe 2 months after his death, his transition. It was just one of those really, really, really hard days of I need to know you're okay. I need to know you're safe. I need to know you're here. And I need you to show me in a big way. And I'm going through his box, and I will often like smell stuff and just get that visceral reaction. And I remember just like crying in this red bandana and looking down at the watch, and it read 8:12. And I'm thinking, hold the phone, wait a minute, this watch is broken. This watch doesn't work. Why is 8:12 showing up? And of course, I started rationalizing. I'm like, well, maybe the watch did work, or whatever. What we can often come up with their own excuses of communication. People, stop that. Stop it, right? You're ruining the experience. So I decided to really lean into it. I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden I quieted my mind. And I said, what does this mean? And I heard clear as day, go look up scripture 8:12. And I have never read the Bible before. Okay. But I do know that there are many 8:12s out there, whatever that 8:12 is. Okay. And so I honestly opened the computer, searched Bible scripture 8:12. And the first one that came up was John 8:12. And the quote is, I am the light of the world. Those who follow me shall not walk in darkness. And that was it. That was all I needed to know, that he was with God. He was in light. He was not in whatever I thought he was at, wherever we think they're at. And I made a big drastic move about 10 months after he passed. I moved from Nevada to Colorado. And everyone was like, no, Miranda, you are crazy. You're not thinking clearly. Don't move, don't move. But I followed my intuition with this, and I moved, and I was still living in Nevada in some big tchotchke place where tons of little signs are at. And I remember being in an aisle and just so confused of, is this the right move for me? And I look down, and on the shelf, I got to get it.
Oh, please do.
I got to get it. On the shelf was this plaque.
No. Oh my God, I got head chills.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay. I'm going to read it to everybody on the podcast. It's a little plaque that looks like it's about 4 inches by 4 inches. And it says, I'm the light of the world. Whoever follows me shall not walk in darkness. And then it's signed John 8:12.
Yeah.
So
and
yeah.
And butterflies were
Butterfly, it's like a
big
gold
connection with me and Lance, with everybody too. And so that was really all I needed to know that he was with me.
That's gorgeous.
And I moved to Denver, and I became a funeral director. Colorado is the only state in the US where you don't have to be a licensed mortician to be a funeral director. So basically, I was the first person the family saw. I was planning everything, okay, planning whether it was a cremation, burial, and so forth, and getting the ceremonies together. I did not do any of the preparation. But I was called to go to that job. I was led to it. I saw an ad in the paper, and it was one of those moments where I heard as strong as day, do it, do
Mhm.
it, do it. And I did it.
Yeah.
And it was the most beautiful experience of my life.
And how long were you in that?
That position,
Yeah.
3 years.
Okay, so 3 years, and then the the mediumshipness, let's get into that now because you're
Yeah.
talking about getting the signs and the things like that.
Mhm.
And the signs to me, well, okay, let me just delineate this or have you do it for us. The signs are one thing, but when you actually hear from or see or smell, them, to me, I feel like that's a whole new level.
Yeah.
Right. So I already have some things I'm going to add to this, but I want you to unpack that first about when did this transition into I'm getting signs, so I'm actually communicating with
Hmm.
people who have transitioned.
Yep. At that point, it was still just my husband. I didn't tell anybody. It was just, I was solely connecting for my own grief healing journey. That's really important to know. I did not know what a medium was. I did not know what I was doing. All I knew was I had a connection with him. And when I got into the funeral directing role, that's when I learned, and this is probably about 3 years after his passing. That's when I learned that I could communicate with other souls. So it was when I was around the loved ones, the deceased, and I would see them first before the family. It sounds strange, but I never felt so connected in my life.
Yeah.
Like I needed to be there. I needed to just talk. And when I was listening, they were talking back to me. And I'm like, this is so weird. This is crazy. And I didn't say anything. I didn't tell anybody because I didn't know what was going on. But I'll tell you what, it was a huge advantage in my job. Huge, huge, huge advantage in my career. Unfortunately, I did had to leave that position. Well, we moved to New Mexico. I ended up remarrying a wonderful man who's also a widow, and we moved from Colorado to New Mexico for our business,
Hmm.
and needed to get out of the funeral directing profession anyway because who I was working for was a corporation. It turned into a sales job as opposed to really helping the family.
Oh, bummer.
And I will be talking about this at another time, but it's important for people to be educated on what
Yes.
to expect when before they plan a funeral for their loved one. Because you got to know. You got to know what's out there. And I left and I was lost. I was so freaking lost. I was depressed. I had anxiety. Um, I had a drinking problem. Um, I remarried an amazing man who was a non-drinker, who really opened up my eyes to some things.
Hmm.
Um, we have a beautiful child together. So on paper, life looks really good.
Hmm.
We've got a beautiful home right in the middle of Santa Fe. Like it's good. But why am I so upset? Why am I so depressed? Why am I so angry? And I just kind of cried out for help. I just really needed a direction. And I still don't know how this book came my way, but it got through to me. And it's by Marla Fries, and it's called The American Psychic. And basically, it's a memoir of her and how she became a medium. And she developed these abilities to protect herself when she was being raised in an abusive home. And so we all develop these. And let me say this too, that everyone has this gift.
Hmm.
Everybody has the ability to tap into higher consciousness, to connect with their loved ones. It is everybody's birthright.
Yeah.
But we have to work through the, and I think what trips us up is a lot of people are either afraid to go there, they don't want to go there, or there's still some human emotions, obstacles in the relationship, hardships that they need to work
Yeah.
through of what happened to them in that relationship when their loved one was still physically here.
Yeah.
So that's really important. And that's why I'm here, is to say you can do this. Do it for your own healing journey. You don't have to go be a medium, but the grief healing journey and the thought of death, really, the pain lessens when we
Yes.
know they're here.
Yes. I have a couple questions here. One, I find it interesting that you talked about smelling your husband
Mm,
because two things. One, the first time I'd ever had that experience was when a cat passed away. It was the first time I had to put a cat or an animal to sleep. It was terrible. It was horrendous. And like, I don't know, 2, 3 days later, I'm walking through my house and I smell her. And cats have a particular smell, each one of them. Like, it's kind of like we do. They have their own little fragrance and it's in their fur. It's not like I'm talking about urine on the carpet. I'm talking
right.
about their body smell. And so I walked out of my office into what I call was a cloud of Petey. Like, I could smell it. I was like, and I even was sniffing around like, oh my God, that's Petey. And I thought,
Yeah.
okay, she's here. Well, there's so much I want to say here. I'm trying to keep it really clean and clear. So the smells to me is a big thing as well.
Mhm.
Is it possible that other people come to you with their smells? Because I'm
Mm,
having, there's someone trying to break through to me. Okay.
yeah.
And this person straight up in the middle of the night said his name, Barry,
Mm,
loud as can be. And
mhm.
then I don't know him. I've asked a million people. I've talked to other mediums. No one knows who this Barry is. Could be someone connected to this home that I moved into. I heard a fart in the middle of the night that was loud as can be on my left side,
Yeah.
on the right side. I've smelled stinky feet and stinky feet when no one's feet smell. Like, we don't have stinky
Yeah.
feet house. And so I'm like, and then my husband smelled it one day too. We're all smelling everybody's feet. So people want to go down this dark path and like, oh, it's a demon and these things, which I don't believe,
Mm,
by the way.
mm.
But to me, it's like,
Let's definitely touch on that. Let's not forget, circle back on
okay, I'll
that.
write it down. But I was like, I don't feel that energy. I feel like there's someone trying to communicate with me
Hmm.
that might be connected to this house, but I don't know who this person is. So my
Hmm.
point is, how would someone like me, who's baby into this,
Mm.
how would you grow that or cultivate that type of experience?
Well, first of all, I think it's really lucky.
Mhm.
People will come to me and say, someone so is coming through and it's scaring the bejesus out of me. And I'm just like, why? They need to say something, they need to connect. And it just so happens that so mediums are taught, psychics and mediums are taught by clairs. Clairsentience is
Right.
to feel, and clairvoyance is to see, clairaudience, clairgustance, I believe, is to I think that's to taste. Um, I'm drawing a blank on the smell one. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because
Claire olfactory, we're gonna call it.
I think that might be it.
Claire
I'm not,
smell,
I think it might be Claire olfactory. I'm not even kidding.
Claire
But
nostrils.
Claire nostrils, Claire stinky feet, Claire get your feet out of my face. Um, um, that is, well, I want to go back to the cat first of all. I'm going to go
Mhm.
back to the cat because you are grieving your cat. So when I say that grief opens us up,
Mhm.
you are smelling things, right? And you're connecting with the cat. Like your senses are heightened.
Mhm.
And it'd be interesting to know that when Barry was coming through, like were you in a dream state? Were your senses open? Were like because you're not usually when we're in a dream state, our egos are removed. That's really how we can connect is when we get out of the way and we receive everything that's coming through. So I would just say that you've got your clair sinuses, clair olfactory is probably a really strong clair for you. But clairvoyance can be too. Clair like use all of them. Don't just get boxed into one sense. Okay.
Right.
So I'm really working on so clairaudience is my dominant one. I can hear really well. They give
Mhm.
me things to hear. Um, and I'm starting to strengthen my clairvoyance, my third eye. So I've been doing little exercises with spirit to help me strengthen this.
Mhm.
So if you really want to hone in on this and you want to start seeing more or hearing more, then throw it out there. I think it's
Okay.
really important for people to intention is everything.
So that's a good question because to me, the difference between intuition and mediumship for me, and I could be wrong,
Mhm.
this is not my area of expertise, but intuition is. And I'm an
Yeah.
intuitive mofo. So I
Yeah.
understand all the clairs. Didn't know there was a smell Claire, but now I got that one too. However, To me, intuition for me in my life has been where I'm connecting to, I get these messages about my own life or things that are going to happen and those type of things. This is, I have had other experiences with deceased people coming to me, but I didn't realize that it's coming through the same clairs. I thought it would come differently. So now I'm like, okay,
It's all the same thing.
yeah, I
It's
didn't
all the
realize
same thing.
for some reason I had messages for me was going to
Yeah,
come differently than messages from
yeah,
other people. So when this started happening,
yeah.
it is mediumship.
It
Yes?
is mediumship. So I want to,
I'm
since we're
knowing that.
talking about it, let's clarify the difference between psychic and medium.
Oh yeah.
So so psychic is the ability to tap into the living energy, right? So when you're connecting with yourself, I believe you're connecting with yourself on a psychic level, okay? Super honed in on your intuition. And then mediumship is connecting with the spirit world, connecting with loved ones, connecting with spirits who've passed on. Okay. That's the only difference. Now there's some bullshit going around like all mediums are psychics, but psychics aren't mediums. It's like,
Oh yeah, what is
okay,
that?
what? I don't give a I don't care. I don't really care. Everybody's got it. If the psychic wants to tap in on the other side, then go fucking tap in. Like,
Yes.
don't hold yourself back. You can have it. Don't put yourself in a box. But I'll tell you, they are different energies, different energies. And there are some people who just don't want to connect with the other side, and that's cool. That's all
Yeah.
good. Don't worry about it. Like, it's not for everybody. But when I do readings, sometimes the psychic hits will come in where I'm connecting with the person. And I
Uh-huh.
actually love doing that first because when I can get them talking about themselves and their life, um, the, the blocks kind of start
Yes.
fading.
Yeah, I
And
know
then
what
their
you're talking
loved ones can come in a little bit more clearer. So when my sessions are very different, they're very relaxed. And it's like the more relaxed I can get the person I'm reading for, the stronger the connection. It's
about.
truly
Mhm.
magical. So just because you have a really strong intuition and you get your hits and you act on your downloads, or does this make sense? The
Mhm.
hits and
Oh
downloads
yeah.
that I'm
Oh
talking
yeah.
about. Okay, okay. And you're listening to them. Um, you're in receiving mode.
Mhm.
So basically, Kristen, it's a switch. If you don't want to connect in the middle of the night to Barry, just tell Barry to go away, and Barry will go away. Okay. And now I'm getting the hit. Now we need to talk about there's some bullshit also going around about bad energies, about stuck energies. If anyone listening to this, and if you've ever got a reading by anybody who told you your loved one is stuck, go ask for your money back.
Yeah, amen.
They are
Amen.
not stuck. They are all there. They are all love and light. They are all healing energy.
Miranda,
They are a
let's say that
part of
louder for
God.
the people in the back. Let's say
Oh,
that louder for the people.
no one is stuck.
No one is stuck.
No one is stuck. I could connect to anybody. Now, someone's loved ones might be a bigger, stronger personality, a little bit louder, easier to connect with, right?
Yeah.
Timid little grandma, timid mom may not be coming through, but she's there. She's there. And there at the end of my sessions, I say, is there anybody you wanted to hear from? And they'll say, my cousin. And I'll take a couple deep breaths. I'll bring her cousin in, and her cousin comes through every single time. They're all there.
Yes, they're all there. I love that. Another question that came up for me that I heard, and I would love to hear your take on this, is I heard that when soon after transition is when their energy is still the strongest here. Is that truth to that?
I
Or is it
mean,
they're hanging around more because we're all freaking out and having panic attacks and,
yeah, you know
you
what?
know,
I hear different things from different mediums. I think they're all strong. I mean, I do believe that if someone is in the hospital, or someone had passed away from a heart attack unexpectedly at home, and you're resuscitating and you still have a heartbeat, it is the soul can leave the body, and the soul is watching everything going
right.
on. Like that can happen. That happens a lot, actually. And kind of just understanding maybe like what's happening. What I suggest people doing though, getting this, is if you're really interested of like the afterlife and stories about the afterlife, go look up near death experiences. they're beautiful. It is so magical to hear what people have witnessed on the other side and what they came back and what they learned. They all kind of have a common theme, but each person has their own individual experience, and it's so moving, and it kind of helps us process death a little bit easier because we're so afraid of where are we going to go, what's going to happen to us. And if that's a big fear of yours, then start exploring your death experiences,
Yeah.
because it could ease that fear a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think they're all strong.
Mhm.
I think
Do they
we can,
remain strong? They're not just like really strong
yeah,
right when they pass. They can
yeah,
remain strong.
I think that's as strong as strong could get. I will say too, is a lot of people think that your loved ones hang out at the cemetery, and they don't. They don't hang out there. I want you to go to the cemetery if that's where you feel connected to them. Some people go to the mountains.
Yeah.
That's where they feel connected with their loved ones. If you need to go to the cemetery to get that connection, fine, but they're not there. They're right here, right next to you.
I have a question. So I think I heard you talk about this on Wisdom, and I'm trying to formulate the question right now where people that are really struggling through grief, it was something you're going to know exactly what I'm saying when I fumble my way through this. You said something to the effect of what are they holding on to, or what are they afraid of, or what is it like? There was something to do with them passing. The reason why they were having a really difficult time is because something they were holding on to or something. Am I making sense? Do you remember this
Yeah,
conversation? Okay.
yeah. I talk about it a lot.
Okay.
And I think this is really important, is when I do encourage people, empower people to build that connection with their loved ones on the other side, a lot of people will say, I can't go there because, um, okay, I'm going to use my own experience. Let's use my own experience. To a certain degree, I blocked off my communication with my husband because there was still unsaid words. There were still arguments that didn't have a resolution. There was still some anger I had over that parts of that relationship.
Mhm.
And I think what a lot of people are afraid to do is explore the hardships, the complicated parts in that relationship. It's like when they die, we automatically think, well, I can't talk about them in a bad way because that's
Yes.
speaking bad will ill about
Ill of the
the
dead.
dead. And it's
Yep.
like, no, it's not. Because this is part of your grief healing journey. Like, you have to get through those complicated, unresolved issues. So, and how you can do that and how I did this. Well, first I had to unblock myself. And one of the things that was blocking me was alcohol. There was a big addiction. It's my dark side. And I'm not completely alcohol free, but I had to completely change my relationship with it. And when I started on my spiritual journey, my spiritual awakening, should I say, that was what for the first message that Spirit told me is you need to stop drinking. And it's still, I'm still going through it. I'm still working through it.
Mhm.
But once I identified the problem of me blocking myself, because I can't connect inebriated. I can't connect after 2 big glasses of wine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But once I stopped drinking, I realized that I didn't deal with my grief. I was still hanging on to stuff. I was still bringing that into my relationship with my husband now. And there were other things that I didn't give myself the chance to work through. So when I say that people um, have obstacles or they're blocking themselves, it's I'm saying explore the whole relationship. Not only honor the good times and be so grateful for those times and everything they taught you in life, but get to a point in your journey where you can find a safe place, a therapist, a safe support group, a best friend, and start talking about what you need to hear from them.
Mhm.
Because if you can open yourself up and have this conversation with them, and if you can quiet the distractions, you will be able to hear, I'm sorry. You will be able to
Yes.
hear, I love you.
Yep.
Right?
I call this postmortem healing. Just because they're past doesn't mean they turn into saints. We need to understand that, right? They were still human. We still had experience with them. And we could love them to death and still be having some type of feelings around the relationship at that time, or regrets, or, guilt or shame or anything, those type of things. And I know someone who has held on to some deaths for a very long time, but like this is not in judgment at all, you guys. Just everybody needs to know this is not in judgment, but everybody around them has thought, it's almost like she's forcing it, this thing. And that person said, I feel like if I heal from this or get happy, it means I don't love them and I don't miss them.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, Miranda. I think this is a big one for people.
Oh, I was just thinking about this morning.
Yeah.
What that means, and it's going to go back to your book, is people pleasing, making people believe that they have to fit into our culture and society of always being sad. I think I think people who are depressed will go find the other people who are depressed and they're going to stay in that bubble. What's happening is I'm assuming it's a she, this is what I'm feeling, is she's not allowing herself her own happiness because it almost feels more comfortable staying in the sadness, staying in that familiar space. And this happened to me too. I did not have the happiest life before Lance died. And once I started finding my grief healing, I felt guilty for being happy. I'm like, do people know I kind of still suffer? But it doesn't matter what people need to know about you and your grief healing journey. We have one mission in life, one mission. And that is happiness, Kristen. That is happiness. When people ask me, Miranda, what is your definition of purpose? My definition of purpose is happiness. You don't need to write a book. You don't need to have a podcast. You don't need to be the face you don't need to do anything. But what you do need to do is find your happiness. And this is the whole thing of it, is when your friend can bring in her loved ones, can incorporate them back in her life, then she can start understanding that she deserves to have a good life.
Happiness
that they really never left her.
Yes. And she does get a lot of signs and things like that. And that has carried.
Oh, hang on to those.
But it's like, it's been years and years, but afraid to throw away memorabilia, things like that. But I'm going to switch gears a little bit because I hear the term energy healer all the time. I've been called an energy healer. I've been called an energy transmutator or something. People call me things that I'm like, what is the term of energy healer? This is a very personal question because you had it written in your bio and I was like, what is it? And is it something that maybe I need to claim too? Because people have called me that.
100% own it.
Those
words. Oh, yeah. Okay. Here we go. This is going to piss some people off.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, but listen, especially how am I going to say this without sounding like an asshole?
You're not gonna.
I love how much transition we've had in our society about talking about spirituality and being open about talking about loss and realigning our chakras and the full moon, the whole gamut, right? There's a big space opening up for this in the fifth dimension. And I don't even know what the fifth dimension is, to be honest with you. When people talk about ascending into some dimension, I'm like, how is it?
I think it's consciousness.
I must go into the fifth dimension every single night, because every single time in meditation, there is no space, there is no time. I am in a different dimension. But this is my whole point. Everybody can do it. No one is more special than the next. No one really knows what they're doing. We're just helping each other along the way. What Taryn Thompson introduced me to Ram Dass and said, Ram Dass says, we're just walking each other home. That's all it is. We're just guiding each other home. Someone might have another piece of nugget before us, whatever. So energy healing is, they call it Reiki, right? And it's life source energy coming through us, coming through our hands and being able to heal through our hands. All it is tapping into higher consciousness and letting that golden healing magical love and light from source, from our loved ones, because they're now part of that, letting them come through like we're a channel, we're a conduit. And then we give this healing energy to those who need it. The world, a person, ourselves, wherever we need to shine some light and love. Okay.
That makes sense.
So I think anyone who has the ability to tap in and to connect has the ability for energy healing.
Okay, same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I see these people charging $400, $1,200 for a Reiki course, I say get really in tune with yourself, really expand on your spirituality. Ask God, ask the universe to open you up to clear anything you need out of your body so you can receive these energy powers and heal other people. Really important though, is I believe that, I mean, we're always going to be healing ourselves and working through our human emotions throughout our entire life. But it's important that the energy healer has done some solid work on themselves first.
I'm not sure you could be a real good one if you hadn't. I mean, we got to clear that channel.
Yeah.
The clearer the channel is, and then, yeah, I believe that's because it takes this is something that I always work to try to word through it. All I can say is it takes the mud out of the lens, when you can be a clear channel to people. I've also want to reiterate, everyone who's listening or watching this on YouTube, I want to reiterate what Miranda is saying, that we all have these spiritual gifts. God didn't go, you, and you get to be this, and you, and you get to be that. The bottom line is we are divine sparks of God. Every single one of us, we are part of the same. We are one, and we are inserted into, or we insert ourselves into little human bodies, and we all have this connection. I always say this too, Miranda, you probably like this. I say, God didn't come to a slow roll and throw us off the bus and say, good luck, see you after a while. God knew that we couldn't handle this. So we needed to remain connected to our source energy, and we all have it.
And to each other. Right,
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes. And whether we've tapped into it, not tapped into it, we're in the beginning journey, because I also call us teeny tiny baby humans. I call us little teeny tiny baby humans toddling around. And when we really look at ourselves that way, that we're not supposed to be perfect, we're not supposed to know anything, and nobody's better because they can sense a deceased loved one, or they're really in tune with their intuition, or any of the other plethora of gifts that's out there. We all have our individual talents, and we have our spiritual gifts. So we all can do this, you guys.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell this real brief story to you, is that I think I might have messaged this to you, but I don't remember. That one time I woke up, I don't know, it's like, I don't know how many years ago. This is back post tsunami. I was living at my mom's house, but I said, God, I would like to try being a medium. I would like to try being a medium. So if you could, just make it easy though. Don't make it scary. Don't make it hard. I don't want to freak anybody out. Like I'm a toddler here.
Yeah.
And I won't get into the whole story because it's very involved. But the long story short is I walked into an Audio Express here in Phoenix to get my CDs that were stuck in my van CD player out. And this guy was ignoring me the whole time. He wouldn't even look up at me. He wouldn't look at me. And all I kept getting in the right side of my head was the words it was audio, clairaudient, but it was in the right side. It was going, little boy, little boy, little boy, just repeatedly, little boy, little boy. Finally, I just was like, okay, this is relentless. So I'm going to say, hey, do you know a little boy that passed away? This is kind of weird, and he looked up finally for the first time, and he said, yes, I do. My nephew, yada, yada, crib death, this and that. And I said, oh, okay. And then I kept getting something else. And I said, is there more? And he goes, my brother and his wife that were the parents of that little boy both passed away a year later with undetermined death in the same apartment. So this happened. So then I looked at him and I said, and that's all the message I got. I didn't get anything else. That was it, just little boy and that little bit. And I said, I just need to tell you that they're here with you and everything is okay. This young man, he had been probably middle to late 20s. this guy, remember, wouldn't look up at me, wouldn't talk to me. He started bouncing around the store. He's throwing free shit at me. He's like this party. And I was like, this completely transformed
Yeah.
this young man. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Right. So when I say, you guys, that I am super intuitive, I'm in touch with my intuition. So I think it wasn't challenging for me when I heard that. It was probably about 3 times where I finally went, huh? You know, but we all can do this. I just asked one day, I just
Yeah.
said, can you give me some, I would love to do this for somebody. Did I go further after that? No, I still get my little dreams of the people and the things. Back to your question though, about Barry coming. It is not in a sleep state, but I would say it's definitely in, a couple of times it's been in quiet, I would say theta, where you're still aware of the outside world, but you're very quiet in your brain, I would say in that, but loud as day, like where I sit up and go, is there someone in my room? So that, and then other times it's just been like walking through the house or something that I will get a fragrance. So yeah, I've had other stories, but this isn't about me. So we're going to move on.
Yeah, and we will. And I want to, but I also want to say, if you want to know where Barry belongs, just ask him
I
and
have,
see
but
what comes
nothing's
through.
come. I'm like, Barry, who do you want me to talk to? I'm
And
assuming
it'll come.
he said the name Barry, but I assume he's Barry. So he could be trying to
I
contact.
know somebody who has a last name Barry.
Yeah.
And
I don't know anybody.
yeah.
All right. So let's move on to probably the last question, because we're coming close to the hour. Of course, it went by 30 seconds, like that I knew it would, Miranda.
Yeah,
You and I.
you went by fast.
So let's talk about, because you guys, there's so much information here. Miranda's a font of knowledge. I tell you, if you start following her, and we'll get to that stuff, you start following her where and what, and really working through this, or maybe even hiring her as a medium to connect with your loved ones. I just want you to know that the sky's the limit with this type of things. Like, it can just keep expanding and expanding. And it's always feels good if you're really, truly ready for it. Whether it's the connection that you're getting, Miranda being the conduit through, or whether it's your own connection. Like, when you're ready, God won't help us 1 second before we're ready, because it's imposing upon our free will. So when you're ready, you can contact people like Miranda. You can, listen to everything that she has to say and learn so much more about all of this. So whether it's from learning to be a medium yourself, just not desiring to be a medium yourself and having going to Miranda to connect with you, or if you're struggling through grief and loss, because I know that you do give a talk, you said, on wisdom, like there's a grief support group on wisdom. So my last question, Miranda, is, are there any new ventures that you're being led to? And I'm going to dip out of the screen, because my real quick, my camera got fuzzy. So if I dip out, it fixes it. Okay.
Yep, that's okay. That's okay. I think why I love this question so much is because when I finally surrendered and said, I want to work for the spirit world, lead me to where you need me to go. Like, I'm not just putting myself as a medium. Like, I do other things. Like, I write channeled letters. That's my podcast. Is people come in and share their story, and I write them a channeled letter. So writing's a big part of that for me. Grief healing sessions and connecting with loved ones is just this very, very small part. I have a passion for talking about death and grief and connecting. Like, this is my purpose. This is my passion. When I was a funeral director, my favorite part about that job was the ceremony. Was the ceremony. And there was a particular, they call them funeral celebrants, right? There's a particular celebrant that I would always vouch for. I'm like, you got to hire her. Celebrants are usually requested when a family doesn't belong to a certain religion, a very spiritual family, someone who wants something really personal. The celebrant works really close with the family, and they tell the person's life. They can write the eulogy, the obituary, they write everything, right? And when I was a funeral director, I said, that's my dream job. That is my dream job. And it has taken me years to get out of my way. So in September, I am I'm working on it. I'll be a certified funeral celebrant in September. And that will be another way of how I can help people really understand grief, really understand death and loss, because I feel that the funeral, the ceremony is a really important part of the grief healing journey. And it doesn't have to be in a church or a funeral home. It can be a backyard, a
Yes.
picnic, whatever. Just find some closure for you, whatever you need to
Mm,
do.
that
And
is so
so,
beautiful.
yeah.
Two last questions. One's real short. For anybody who's watching this, because I really feel for people who have gone through maybe even their first death or second death, because it can be very scary and it can be very tumultuous. We can feel panic because of it. You know, a lot of things. w- One of the questions that they ask always is, are they okay and where have they gone? So could you briefly touch on that, Miranda?
That was my number one question.
Yeah.
And what did I do? I asked it. I asked, "Show me you're okay. Show me you're okay." And if that is, if you need to know in that moment, that's something that really holds you back right now, ask them, and they're going to show up in their own way. But this is the most important part. Get out of the way. Don't rationalize it. If you see an amazing sign, don't let your mind take over and you think, no, that couldn't be. If they're messing with your electronics, if they moved something, if you see
Lights.
that yeah, lights, if you see that hummingbird or that butterfly, if you feel that connection, just feel into it. So, like, and I think we touched on this already, Kristen. They all are there. They are all there. They are all safe. Every single one of them. But if you need validation, you've got to ask.
Yeah. And where did they go? They returned to the God source. I mean, what do you describe that as? Like, where does the soul go?
I did everywhere. The
Mm,
sun, the wind, the birds, the trees, like they are the mother earth, the water. Like I believe they are everywhere. I think their
that.
soul is just energy everywhere. Like I don't really have a particular like place I call it.
Yeah.
I think they're and they'll show up
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah. But
I feel them
back
everywhere.
to this from where we came.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay,
Mhm.
Miranda. So if anyone would love to follow you, wants to
Oh,
find you, wants to hear more from you,
yeah.
where can they locate you? All the places.
I'm very new on Instagram. You can find me there. I do post some videos, letters to the living podcast. Um, I have a fantastic podcast also about death, grief, and the afterlife. People that come on share their experience.
So
And
two
then
podcasts? You have two.
just one, the Letters to the Living
Okay.
podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that's the name of my Instagram account, Letters to the
Okay.
Living podcast. And then I'm on Wisdom a lot. I will do impromptu grief talks. I do monthly support. And then, they can find me on my website, and I do only in-person sessions. So if someone does want a session, you'll have to come to Santa Fe. But Santa Fe is a very healing place if you need that connection.
Yeah. What's your website, dear?
MirandaMay.net.
Easy.
Yeah,
MirandaMay.net. Well, Miranda, this has been, we could talk for 3 hours,
yeah,
easy.
I agree.
Oh my gosh, but I wanted to let just spirit take the reins and we go where we
Mm,
went with this. And it was, of course, magical and
it
beautiful and
was.
the best part of my day so far. So thank
Oh,
you so
me
much for being on
too.
my podcast.
Thank you. I'm
You, my
so
dear.
grateful for you.